Okay. Right. So this is the Adam verses. So we'll start with this, and then we'll go into we'll review also the Watos ones. Before we start, is there any questions or comments on anything that's passed? Anything you guys want to review? Anything about the rituals, the litanies, what to do, what not to do? Yeah.
Can you show us again the difference between the Adam and the Watos in the musical tunes? Sorry, I tried to explain it to somebody and I screwed it up so badly, and
Okay, sure.
I see that I don't know it.
I'll get into it, no problem. I want to ask, this is just for my own personal information. Assume that you didn't have to say any hymns or do any responses, but you're in charge of all of the movements and all of the logistics in a raising of incense. Who would feel comfortable to I can handle it alone? Yeah. Who would still be uncomfortable? You didn't have to do it. You didn't have to say any hymns, so you're not saying verses of cymbals or doxologies, and you're not responding anything in the altar. But you just have to make sure that all the movements have to be done properly. So the censer has to come to Buna on time. You need to pick up the cross, do the procession with him. Litany of the gospel, you need to know what to take, where to stand, what to do. Still no? What do you think? Unsure? So do you think it's just a matter of you guys reviewing this on your own, or is there something that we can do here to kind of push that? Because that's really when I'm asking these questions, because that's the vision. Right? The vision is, like I said, and I want to keep repeating it so that it's very clear, is that to get us independent.
It will be good if you can practice live
Bring Abuna?
لا as if إنه أبونا موجود ووجود انت تصلح لنا لا كان المفروض تعمل كذا كان المفروض تعمل كذا. I'm thinking ان حتى في الفيرسز اوف سيمبلز لو كان نقدر ان احنا نبقى تو جروبس ونراجع مع بعض
Yeah, for sure. When we finish the verses of symbols and stuff, then we're gonna do that, and doxologies as well. And I'm gonna to review them and make sure that they're proper. But yes, we could do definitely we could do a simulation. We could do a simulation for you. So let's just continue with verses of symbols, and then we'll see what we can do for this review. But do you guys ever go back to see any of the videos, or to listen to any of the stuff that was done before, or you guys just move along with it?
Move on.
Yeah. Move on? Okay. So let's start with the Adam verses. So let's go. Kyrie eleison amoni maren this paragraph again. It's a bit shaky. O on oherpis enta anchenti et So here it's ere, if noti. We said this is the abbreviation for if noti. So basically this is the first letter, which does an F sound, and this is the last letter, which is a T. So actually, if you write it down, this is a TI. So the sound this makes, it's T. As opposed to a T like this, which just does the T. So this one is just T, but the one with the long bar, it's T. So ere ifnoti, ere ifnoti, nainan, itene sebrizveya. And we said because it's a lot of like words, then the Maria, as soon as you say it, the Maria is connected to the ere. Eth o Maria erifnoti nainan itene sebrizveya. Let's try it again. O an o elvis enta
Anchen fi et o Maria et notina ina hitem sebrizveya.
Again, I'm hearing weird stuff here. You guys understand? It's ere, like E-R-E. Okay, I don't know, I'm hearing nice noises. Let's try again. O an o helvis enta
Anchen fi et o Maria et notina ina hitem sebrizveya.
Very good. I also, and I'm gonna repeat this again, and then I'm gonna stress on it. If you're ever practicing this, like at home, really focus on the projection. The voice has to come out. Like, in an ideal world, you're able to say without a microphone, and people will still be able to hear you, right? I want to make a very clear distinction. There's a distinction between yelling and projecting, you know? But I mean, like, at the sound, the volume sound that I'm hearing, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like we just came in, but like 6, that's very low volume. You know, like it should be, I mean, like my voice alone, and I have a weak, very weak voice, I could probably cover over 6 of you. That doesn't make sense, right? So it needs to be projected and say it with confidence. Meshi? So let's try it one more time. We'll use the opportunity. We'll do one more review. But I really want to hear like life, okay? So take it from me, and like you guys should like equal my volume. Meshi? Kyrie eleison amoini marem ostente et reis soavete fiot nem shirinem birnem masoav anon khanila arsene Christianos fairat benoti en alithinos on elbisenta anotenti et o Maria elif notina inan hitene sebrizveya. Better. When you guys are singing or chanting in a chorus, this is just like a couple of stuff to keep in mind. Number 1, your ears have to be incredibly sensitive to the voices around you. So when you're singing, you're never focused on how you sound. You're focused on what the next person on either side of you is saying, or if there's a leader, like then your ear is very sensitive to what he's saying. Right? A lot of people that don't have the sensitivity, you find that like the leader went in a certain direction and this guy is on his own track. And then it takes him, like depending on how much time it takes him to actually pick up that like you're off, like you're not going at the same, right? So even there has to be a uniformity, obviously, of tune, that you're singing the same thing. There needs to be a uniformity of speed, a uniformity of tone. You guys understand the difference between volume and tone, right? So like volume, it's like it's the same note, but one is saying like same tone, but it's a different volume. The tone, it's so you need to be singing at the same tone, and also your volume should be uniform. There shouldn't be one person who's, unless obviously like if there's a leader, it's normal his voice is a bit louder just so that everyone can hear and everyone can follow in one. But in a perfect world, like for example, if you hear like Ibrahim Ayed, and like the chorus that stands with him. For like the long hymns and stuff, if they're not doing like the muraba, then like he stands back and like everyone follows, right? Because once he set the speed in place, then everyone follows that same speed, and everyone follows the same tune, and it's uniform. So in an ideal world, when I'm singing, I shouldn't even be hearing my voice. I should only be hearing the people around me if we're all uniform in volume. You understand? So this is something to just keep in mind. Because some people, like, some people obviously they're more gifted in terms of like the projection. Their voices are just naturally like stronger. Some people are a bit weaker. So then in a chorus you find like it's very unbalanced. Like you could hear, like there's like 6 people, but you only hear 3, and then the other ones are, but if you keep it balanced, then it's one uniform voice that comes out. Type. We said the 4th paragraph, we skip it. So then we're going to start here today. So I'm going to go through the words. Shere ne mareya, right? So then the X here at the beginning of a word, or at the beginning of this word, it's SH. So shere ne mareya. So we said this is the ro, so this is an R. Mareya. And then we said T, exactly like here, T Parthenos, this is T. The chima here, it's a CH. So it's a hard ch. So T ch rompi. T ch rompi. Right? It's a bit of a tongue twister. So shere ne mareya, T ch rompi, eth. So you guys remember the theta? Eth ne sos. Right? The omega is the O. So shere ne mareya ti chorompi ethnesos thi e tas mi si nan ifnoti. So if you guys remember at the top here, I said this is the abbreviation for ifnoti. This is the full word. This is the full word. Okay? And you're gonna see those two are used interchangeably. So in some contexts or in some books they always write the full word. Other books, especially the older books, they use like a lot of abbreviations. There's even abbreviations for like martiros and abbreviations for stavros. They have like it's some of them they actually look like hieroglyphs. Yes.
Sorry. So starting from now, it's like this is the same words said in a whether it's your
yes.
mans or vespers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
What does it mean when there's the M with the like accent on top of it before a word?
This?
Yeah, like.
So the accent, we said, it's as if, like in French, the E accent grave. So it actually looks like an accent grave. So imagine there's a E accent grave before it.
No, what I mean is like, what does it mean, like, actual meaning of the
Oh,
word?
the actual meaning?
Because like, what's the difference between the, because like I tried to see the English, but I don't see much of a difference.
Yeah, I know it has something to do, it's like a grammatical thing, but I'm not entirely sure what it does. Or I'm not sure if it's consistent. So the tasmi sinan mefnoti pi logos. Pi logos. What does logos mean?
The word.
The word. Very important word you need to know. Mashi? So I'll say it once. I'll take the last one and then move into this one. Itene sebrezveya sherene more eyati cherompi ethne sosti tasmisinane mefnoti pilogos. So this is another example, just like amoinima, the first one, and just like the one ohel piece. You guys remember when we said Mareya, we said we go directly into A because there's a lot of words. Mareya erif notina inan. So you're going to do the same thing here. Ethne sosti etasmisi nane mefnoti pilogos. Let's try. Sherene mareya ti cherompi again, sherene mareyati
ethnes ostietas misinane mefnoti pilogos.
How's that? Good? I'm going to try to move a bit, like if you guys are comfortable, Yani, I can move a bit quicker through the paragraphs because it's the same thing, we're just putting in words. ماشي? So one more time, and if it's good for you guys, I'm gonna move on. And like I said, and I remind you guys that when I ask if it's good, it means I can say it, you guys can say it on your own, like you're comfortable enough. Last time. Very good. And then the second one. Exactly the same thing here. Khen, u, shere, if, o, web. Shere ne Maria, khen, u, shere, if, u, web. So we said the little epsilon, if it's following an o, then it has a u sound. U, shere, if, o, web, shere ne Maria, if, mav. So the accent, the jinkin. If, mav. So you see here the epsilon. The epsilon, if it follows an A or an E, it acts as a V. So of or if. Meshi? Is that clear, the distinction? So that's the difference between here, it's a U, and here it's of. If mav, M, fi, if, U, web. We said the H here is like a Y. M, fi, if, U, web. Shere ne Maria khen u shere f o web. Shere ne Maria ethmav mfi f u web. Clear? Yes.
So sorry, ethowab and ephowab, are they similar, or is
Yeah.
that just like in terms of meaning?
If I'm not mistaken, it is the same. One is masculine, the other one is feminine. Right? So for example, we say in Basra, in Thob Tetigom, we say sotireya if o web. A lot of people, they say eth o web. They're just like going with the flow. Whatever they hear is. But if o web is feminine. And if o web is masculine. So here it's like with a holy hail. So it's the hail here that is holy. So in Coptic, hail is a feminine word. Right? So listen. Sherene mare eyacheno o sheref o web. Sherene mare yathmavim fi eth o web. So here, because the third line here is a bit shorter, then you take like a micro pause after if o web. Listen to it again. Sherene mare eyacheno o shere ef o web. Sherene mare yathmavim fi ef o web. Here, so just notice that this is like connected. Mavim fi eth o web. So you jump this. Actually, let's try it. Sherene mare eyacheno o shere o web. Sherene mare yathmavim fi eth o web. Again, Sherene mare eyacheno o shere o web. Sherene mare yathmavim fi eth o web. So just very important, the distinction between if o web and if o web. Make sure that you make that distinction clear. Maybe a lot of people around you may not make it. Make sure that for you it's very clear. Last time. Sherene mare eyacheno o sheref o web. Sherene mare yathmavim fi eth o web. Very good. Clear? Yes? I can move on, or you guys want to repeat? It's good? Next one. Shere Michael. So you realize the same letter. In this context here, it's Khe. So Shere Michael. Pi Nishti. So again, the omega with the little tail, it's an SH. Pi Nishti. En Arshi. So here we go back to the SH. En Arshi Angelos. So the two ghammas back to back, they usually do an NG sound. There's some exceptions, but in this case it's NG. So en Arshi Angelos. Shere Gabriel. Gabriel. Pi Sot. P, Sodp, so TP, M, P, Phi, so again this is the F, did we say this before? Yeah, we saw it here. M, P, Phi, Shen, No, Phi. M, P, Phi, Shen, No, Phi. Very important word, you're going to see this often. Announcer. And especially during the month of Qiyah, you're going to see this word very, very often, right? MP Faishin Nofi. Listen to it. Sheremichai Yelpinishtin Arshi Angelos Shere Gabriel Pisot MP Faishin Nofi. Listen again. Sheremichai Ilpinishtin Arshi Angelos Shere Gabriel Pisot MP Faishin Nofi. Try it. Sheremichai Ilpinishtin Arshi Angelos Shere Gabriel Pisot MP Faishin Nofi. Exactly. So you also have a little tiny micro pause after Pisot. Shere Gabriel Pisot MP Faishin Nofi. Try it again. Sheremichai Ilpinishtin Arshi Angelos Shere Gabriel Pisot MP Faishin Nofi. Very good. Try it again. Sheremichai Ilpinishtin Arshi Angelos Shere Gabriel Pisot MP Faishin Nofi. You guys alone. Shere. Sorry. Okay. Let's go. Sheremichai Ilpinishtin Arshi Angelos Shere Gabriel Pisot MP Faishin Nofi. Shere Gabriel. Ga. G-H. Again. Sheremichai Ilpinishtin Arshi Angelos Shere Gabriel Pisot MP Faishin Nofi. Or actually, instead of taking like a pause after sod and making it very dry, just prolong the O a tiny bit. Shere Gabriel Pisot MP Faishin Nofi. Try it. Sheremichai Ilpinishtin Arshi Angelos Shere Gabriel Pisot MP Faishin Nofi. Very good. How's that? Let's review the three together. Shere Mare Eyati Echerom Tasmi Sinai Mevnoti Pilogos Shere Mare Eyacheno O Shere
angelos, cere Gabriel pisot pempifai shenofi.
Very good. How's that? Is it good? Move on? Yes? Mesh. So here you see for the month of Kiyak. So for the month of Kiyak, there's 2 paragraphs that are added. Mesh, you have the paragraph for Archangel Gabriel, and then you have the paragraph for St. John the Baptist. Mesh? Now, very important here to understand. For example, if you have a church who is named after the Archangel Gabriel, that paragraph is going to be in their annual standards. They're always going to be saying this paragraph. Or if you have a church that is after St. John the Baptist, they're always going to be saying his paragraph. As a general rule, the intercessors of your church, you're always going to say them in the verses of Cymbals. They're like a standard. So for example, at St. Peter and St. Paul, you guys are going to say the paragraph for St. Peter and St. Paul. Here, we're not going to say it. However, on the Feast of the Apostles, we're definitely going to say it. You understand? So it's one of 2 things. The intercessors of your church, you're going to say them all the time. If they're not the intercessors of your church, then there's 2 occasions where you're going to say them. It's either it's the season for it, right? So like the month of Kiyak. So even if Archangel Gabriel is not in your normal list of intercessors, well then you're still going to mention him because that's the ritual now. And same thing for John the Baptist, right? If he's the intercessor of your church, he's going to be all the time. If it's his feast or if it's the month of Kiyak, then you're going to say him. Or if it's like the Feast of Epiphany, then his paragraph is there as well. You understand? So it's either an occasion or it's an intercessor. But I mean, some churches, and this is where you have variance between the churches. Like I think, okay, you had asked me a while back, like how do you know which paragraphs are like standard and which ones are optional? It varies from church to church. And even from church to church, it actually varies from occasion to occasion. So for example, in Vespers, where you have like a lot more time, maybe you're going to say more paragraphs. But in Matins, for example, especially if it's a super early liturgy and it's for the people who have to go to work after, maybe you're going to cut it short. Right?
Are there any like you have to hit, like besides St. Mary?
So Saint Mary is like a base. Like I'll tell you, but what I'm telling you, it's like take it with a grain of salt. Okay, I'm giving you like a general standards idea, but it's still tailorable. Like if I'm really stuck on time, I could still make it shorter, but I'm giving you a general standard. So general standard is that you're going to say St. Mary, the 2 paragraphs. The Archangel Michael and Gabriel together in the same paragraph, they're usually like a standard. Again, I'm giving you like an average thing. So they're usually a standard. And then Archangel Gabriel is not usually a standard, but like I said, for the month of Kiyak, he's going to be said. The cherubim and the seraphim and the heavenly orders, they're generally a standard. St. John the Baptist, in many churches, he is a standard. In some churches, he's not always. The apostles, definitely a standard. St. Mark, definitely, because he's our preacher. St. George, as like the Prince of Martyrs. And then usually you'll have the intercessor of the church. But however, notice like the structure, because the structure or the order here represents the structure of all saint glorifications. So if you think of doxologies, if you think of verses of Cymbals, if you think of like even when you're saying like Axios and liturgy and stuff, there's a certain order that the church follows. Okay, so it's St. Mary first, and then you see that it's all of the heavenlies, right? Starting first with the archangels, so Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Suriel, Sidakiel, Sarathiel, and Aniel, and then you have all of the angels, cherubim, seraphim, all the heavenly orders, and then the first among women, or the first like among people born, like the greatest born from women, you have St. John the Baptist, right? St. John the Baptist, and then you have, like for example, in our case, St. Joseph will come in between the 2 here, between St. John the Baptist and like the apostles. Coptic reader, if you insert St. Joseph, they actually put St. Joseph above John the Baptist. That's not I'm not, to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure how this came to be, or how we know this, because, for example, if you say them in the Hitanyet, you guys know sometimes we say through the intercessions or through the prayers, right? And usually the intercessions, it's like the higher one. So for example, in the hymn of the intercessions, you're going to say St. John the Baptist first. You're going to say He tenne presveia. So he falls under the intercessions category. St. Joseph still falls under the through the prayers category. This is why here we say him, like after St. John the Baptist, you have like St. Joseph, for example. And then you have the apostles. So the apostles, so you have the general group of the apostles, and then you have like St. Mark, and then all of the other apostles. And then you have like the martyrs, male and then female. And then you have the saints, starting with St. Anthony. Again, male and female. So that's the general structure of the saints. Right? And this applies pretty much at large. Like I said in glorifications of saints, doxologies, verses of Cymbals, whatever it is. So, and even the Hitanyet, like the hymns of the intercession, it also follows that order. So that gives you an idea that if you're standing in Vespers or Mass and it's the commemoration of, let's say, St. Anthony, well, you know that St. Anthony is gonna come, let's say, after your list of martyrs. Right? You're not going to say St. Anthony and then say St. George. Or you're not going to say St. Anthony and then say St. Philopater Mercurios. You know which one comes first. Is that clear? That order is very important for you guys as deacons to be aware of. Because when you come to attend the liturgy, you should always know whose commemoration it is. Right? And now you guys have like, because Coptic reader just like naturally and so easily inserts the paragraph automatically. You don't even need to think. You just open it, you make sure it's live, and then you just follow the list there. Back in the day, we actually had to open a book that was like the church calendar, and then find out whose intercession it was, and then you had to flip through a book, like a real book, like papers. You had to flip through a book, and then you had to find his paragraph, and then you had to know where his paragraph goes in the list. Right? Yeah. Kind of sad that you guys get it so easy now. But anyways, so yeah, is that clear? The general order of things? So we're going to learn the paragraph of Archangel Gabriel since we're in the season anyway, so you need to know this for the next coming month, at least until Christmas. So, Shere Gabriel Pi Neshti and Arshi Angelo, so the same as Archangel Michael. Shere. Now get ready for this word. We saw this before. We're going to say it again. Pisop, like remember the last one we said, Pisopt, MP Novi, right? Excuse me. So, Fi, E, Taf, and then the S, the upside down S, it's a H, kind of like in Hitin. Fi, E, Taf, Hi, Shen, Nofi. Fi etaf hi shenofi. Maria ti parthenos. Meshi? Is that clear? Any struggles on the letters or on the pronunciation? Or it's clear?
So can you say it one more time?
Yes. The whole thing?
Sure, yeah.
So, Shere Gabriel Pi Neshti en Arshi Angelos Shere Fi E Taf Hi Shenofi Maria Ti Parthenos.
And the first letter is an F or a TH, E or Phi?
That one is an F.
F, okay, yeah.
This is actually, I'll tell you. Remember here, if noti, remember this letter here?
Yeah.
This is actually like the lowercase of that same letter. And you see it here also in Seraphim. So exactly. So this is the lower case of like the F in Ifnoti, right? I believe it's called Fad, this letter. Actually, I think you see it in math too. Yeah, we see everything in math. Jacob's like, yeah. So unfortunately, I had to say. So listen very carefully to this paragraph because it's tricky. Especially the third line is a bit of a, we call them like the rap paragraphs. Okay. I'm gonna say it very slowly. Shere Gabriel el pineshtena arshi angelos. So you still have that micro pause. Sherefietaf hi shenofi emareieti parthenos. take it. Sherefi etaf hi shenofi emareyati parthenos. Listen to it again. Arshi angelos. Sherefi etaf hi shenofi emareyati parthenos. Let's try it. Very, very slow. Meshi. Sherech Abrihi
Il Pineshten Arshi
Angelos Sherefi etav Hishenofi Emareyati Parthenos. Ah, that's pretty good. Try it again. Again, slow. But like we're gonna pick up speed. Sherech Abrihi Il Pineshten Arshi Angelos Sherefi etav Hishenofi Emareyati Parthenos. How's that? Have you guys tried alone? Sherech Abrihi
Il Pineshten Arshi Angelos Sherefi etav Hishenofi Emareyati Parthenos.
Yes, it's just the little pauses. Sherefi etav hishenofi emareyati parthenos. Again, just this. Sherefi etav hishenofi emareyati parthenos. Again. Sherefi etav hishenofi emareyati parthenos. Perfect. Now let's try at a more normal speed. Sherech Abrihi Il Pineshten Arshi Angelos Sherefi etav Hishenofi Emareyati Parthenos. No, it's not making it. It's okay. Listen, at the beginning, we really don't like the tongue twisters, but then you learn to like love them, and then you like look forward to them. Kind of like the Heaton for Nicodemus and Mary Magdalene during Easter. I don't know, it's become like a favorite. You know? You guys don't know what I'm talking about? No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You know what I'm talking about? Or like in Tasbeha, you know, like you look forward to like, you know, the Council of Nicaea and stuff like the commemoration of the saints. No, I'm speaking Chinese. Like you learn to love them. Yes. You got a question?
Yeah, can you just break down the big words? I keep
Yes.
getting lost there.
So,
Exactly.
actually, where's the mouse? Okay, so fi, e, ta, so tough, fi, e, tough, he, shin, no, fi. So when you have like two N's, it's exactly like in English. It's just like an emphasis, like it's a hard N, like shin, no, fi, right? So fi, e, tough, he, shin, no, fi. Good?
Yeah.
Sherech Abrihi
Il Pineshten Arshi Angelos Sherefi etav Hishenofi Emareyati Parthenos.
The only thing I would say is just keep the fiat of Hishenofi at a constant tone. Sherefiet of Hishenofi Emareyati Parthenos. So that the high is at A, like M, so at the A. But besides that, it stays low. Sherefiet of Hishenofi Emareyati Parthenos. Again. Sherech Abrihi
Il Pineshten Arshi
angelos, Sherefie tafishen nofi emareyati parthenos. Again, Sherefie ilbineştena arşi angelos, Sherefie tafishen nofi emareyati parthenos. Again, Sherefie ilbineştena arşi angelos, Sherefie tafishen nofi emareyati parthenos. Very good. Just again focus on the theater of Hishnovi to keep it at the same thing. Sherefie tafishen nofi emareyati parthenos. How's this paragraph? A couple of hundreds of times and I'll get it. Let's try it again. Very good. Is that clear? Yes? You sure? Or is this like a, yeah, whatever, just keep going. You guys are good? طيب, next one. Shere ni she robim. Shere ni she robim. Shere ni se rafim. So shere ni she robim. Shere ni se rafim. Shere ni tagma. So again the GH. Nitagma tiro. Tiro is a very common word. Tiro means all. Okay, all. Here. Shere nitagma tiro en e pu ra nion. Also a very common word meaning heaven. Shere nitagma tiro en e pu ra nion. Tagma is very close to Arabic here, taghamat, right?
Word.
Yeah, anyways. So again, Shere ni sherobim, Shere ni serafim, Shere ni tagmatiro, and eporanion. Shere ni sherobim, Shere ni serafim, Shere ni tagmatiron eporanion. Shere ni tagmatiron eporanion. It's kind of like bouncy. Shere ni tagmatiron eporanion. Let's try it. Shere ni sherobim, Shere ni serafim, Shere ni tagmatiron eporanion. So because Shere ni serafim is very short, so we stay a bit longer on the A here. Sherobim, Shere ni serafim, Shere ni tagmatiron eporanion. So you see that here between the O and the A, it's a very quick Shere ni tagmatiron eporanion. It's like half eaten. Again. Shere ni sherobim, Shere ni serafim, Shere ni tagmatiron eporanion. Again. Shere ni sherobim, Shere ni serafim, Shere ni tagmatiron eporanion. Very good. How's that? That's okay? Third. So let's take the 3 new paragraphs together. So every 3 paragraphs I'll do like a, actually sorry, this is 3. So we'll take 1 more and then we'll review. So this is the other paragraph, this is for St. John the Baptist. So like I said, on his commemoration, or on, like, for example, his commemoration feast is on the second day of Tut, so September 12th, right? So you would say him for sure on this day, or the month of Kiyah, or the Feast of Epiphany. Or he also has a commemoration on the same day as Pope Carolus. I think it was like the appearance of his head, or something to that effect, or the discovery of his body. Don't quote me on it, but I know he has a commemoration on the feast of Pope Carolus on the 9th of March. So on these certain days you will mention him. Although, anyways, this is a side note at this point, but I mean like because the March one, it's usually like during Lent. So if it's in the middle of the week, well then you're not going to mention any saints, but we'll get to that one later on. Yeah. So Shere Yo Ennis Shere Yo Ennis Pinishti. So if you guys, this is like the third time we see Pinishti. So what does Pinishti mean? Great. Ah, that's great. So the great Pinishti E me pro dromos. So here this is the delta, which you obviously know from math or sciences. So e me prodromos, right? The forerunner. Pinishti e me prodromos. And then shere pi owib, which means priest. Ep singenis. So the epsilon here, we saw situations. So we said, for example, after an O, it's a U. We said in front of a or an E, it's of or if. And then this is the third scenario. It does an E sound. Ep singenis. So the two gammas, just like angelos, like up here. Again, the NG. Ep singenis en Emmanuel. Right, so the lambda from waves and optics. There you go. What was it again? Anyone remember what this is? Lambda?
Yeah.
Well, what do you use it? What is it in waves?
Wavelength, maybe?
Wavelength?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Sounds about right. I would have said that if I wasn't taking class. So, Shere Yoannes, Pinishti me prodromos, Shere Pio Wib, Singenis, and Emmanuel. So listen. Shere Yoanne Espinishti Eme prodromos, Shere Pio Wib, Singenis, and Emmanuel. Listen to it again. Shere Yoanne Espinishti Eme prodromos, Shere Pio Wib, Singenis, and Emmanuel. Try it. Shere Yoanne Espinishti Eme prodromos, Shere Pio Wib, Singenis, and Emmanuel. Epsingenis, yes. The kinsman, I believe, yes. Kinsman. But kinsman, I think, is just a fancy word for like relative, no? Singenis. Shere Yoanne
prodromos, Shere Pio Wib, Singenis, and Emmanuel.
Shere Pio Wib. Shere Pio Wib, Singenis, and Emmanuel. Yalla, again louder. Shere
Yoanne Espinishti Eme prodromos, Shere Pio Wib, Singenis, and Emmanuel.
Again. Shere Yoanne Espinishti Eme prodromos,
Shere Pio Wib, Singenis, and Emmanuel.
Very good. Again. Shere How's that? What's forerunner? Eme prodromos. Eme prodromos. So let's review. We'll take it from St. Mary. Let's go.
Sherene mare eyati et shirom piet nesosti et asmisinane mefnoti pirobos sherene mare eyateno o sheref oef sherene marias maven fiet oef sheremi chai il pineshtena arshi angelos shere gabriel pisot tempifai shenofi shere gabriel pineshtena arshi angelos shere etaf ishenofi emareiati parthenos shere sherobi im shereni serafim shere tagmatiron eporaneon shere yohanne espineshte emeprodromos shere bi ovibim singenis en Emmanuel.
How's that? Is there any paragraph that's like a bit shaky? Yes.
First one on this slide. The
Sure.
quick part at the end.
Yeah. No, that's a tough one. Let's try it again. Shere Gabriel bineshtena arshi angelos shere fi etaf nofi emareiati parthenos. Again. Shere Gabriel
Il pineshtena arshi angelos shere fi etaf nofi emareiati parthenos.
Last time.
Shere Gabriel il pineshtena arshi angelos shere fi etaf nofi emareiati parthenos.
How's that? Good? Any other paragraphs that are so-so?
For me, the one right after. Is,
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Shereni sherobi im shereni serafim shereni tagmatiron eporaneon.
Let's take the second half of it slower. Shereni tagmatiron eporaneon. Again.
Shereni tagmatiron eporaneon.
Again.
Shereni tagmatiron eporaneon.
Again.
Shereni tagmatiron eporaneon.
Last time.
Shereni tagmatiron eporaneon.
It's getting catchy, huh?
Shereni tagmatiron eporaneon.
You start walking around. Shereni tagmatiron, shereni tagmatiron. Then, welcome to my life, where everything is just a bouncy Coptic hymn. Remember, it's almost like a game. Like, it's actually like a game. Like the Hitin I was talking to you about it, like in Easter. Yosef nemni Nicodemus numti age Maria Magdalene. It's It's like just makes you like giddy, you know. It's like even if it's not your paragraph, like you have to say that paragraph. And it's just like it's like you can't skip this paragraph, you know. Anyways, it gets really funny because like at some point in the Cathedral when they like the Ibrahim Ayad liturgy, I call it the Christmas and Easter liturgy, like from the cathedral, like when you get really like into hymns, it becomes like almost like a sporting event, you know, like you look and then you look at who are the new players, who's the roster, what are the stats, what did they say, you know, like what did they not say, and it's like, oh man, did you hear this year they added this hit in? Oof, it was so great. And then we all go out and like learn the hit in, you know, and it was like the greatest thing. Like when they first came up with like the combos of like the martyrs, I don't know if you ever heard these hit ins.
Brides of Christ and stuff like that?
Sorry?
Like the Brides of Christ and stuff like that?
The Brides of Christ, and then they did the same thing with the martyrs, and then the same thing with the patriarchs, and now they do it like with practically like every group, they've kind of regrouped them all together, you know? But so now we're like, okay, this is just like, it's too much at this point, but when it first started, we're like, oh man, this is sick, did you hear that? And then we like go out and learn it.
Sorry, who's they? Like, who's they?
The chorus. So like the main choir that prays with like the Pope, it's like headed by Ibrahim Ayed, with like this is the Eklirikeia, so this is like the seminary. So in seminary school, you have like a division for like hymns, and actually the way they do it, they separate it, I think Sam, you were in it, right?
Yeah.
So they separate it into, it's like,
After the first year I left, I don't want you to.
but basically they're separate from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they separate them in like 3 groups. So they have kind of like the A group, the B group, and then the C group, in terms of like...
first string, second string, third string?
Yeah, basically, and actually he praised the liturgies with like the A group.
No.
So basically like when you see them, like in Christmas or Easter, every one of these guys is basically like a leader in his own church. Like a hymn leader, like he's like a deacon leader, right? But it's like a group of these guys. That's why they're like the standard, you know? And obviously when they're considered the mother church, right? So when they pray, whatever they do or the way they say hymns or whatever, it's a reference. You know, like I've learned a lot of hymns off of those liturgies. Any other paragraphs that are shaky or want revision?
I think on the other page, the one before.
Yes. Sorry.
I'm not sure which paragraph.
Let's just review all of them. It's okay. We'll do all of it. Again, the last paragraph. Again, this one.
Dromos Shereti Ovid Sengenis and Emmanuel.
Very good. We'll stop it here for today. But just to come back to your question, because I didn't answer it, the whole like the tunes of the Watos and the Adam. But again, this is the it's the specific tunes I'm talking about, like the Psali, the Theotokeia, the doxologies, like that group of hymns. The difference between the Watos and the Adam, we said that you have like the paragraph is split into 4 lines, right? So you have for the Adam tunes, every line is 5 musical syllables, right? And then the Watos are 7, right? So we took the example of like the Sunday Psali, like I saw it after you. Da, 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 na, na, so right? Da, 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 na, 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 right? And also, like if just since we're in the season, the general tune for the Psalis in Kiyak, right? It's exactly like, if you guys know from Kiyak Tazbaha, like Amin Alleluia, the melody. Ageios Otheos Ageios Yesheros Ageios Athanatos Amin Alleluia ta ta sorry ta 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 5. And then the Watos Psalis of Kiyak are like the burning bush. Da 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 da. So 7, right? So whenever you see like Psali in Kiyak, the Adam or Watos will tell you which tune it is. And then you have, so basically you have like a Kiyak tune for Psali Adam, Psali Watos. You have an annual one for Psali Adam, Psali Watos, and you have a joyful one for Adam and Watos, right? So that's how in general, like any like if I see a Psali I've never seen before, by the title of it and knowing when it's said, you could already determine what the tune is going to be. If you understand this concept. But we'll take it over time, it's not something you guys need to know like right away. Was there any other questions or comments on anything at all?
Actually, I had a question, but it's kind of like this week I went to, I think it was this week, I went to liturgy on Tuesday in the morning, and then because it was like a feast of like all 3 things at once, like resurrection, baptism, and
yes. Annunciation, Annunciation, Nativity, and Resurrection.
Okay, yeah. And then the deacon that was with me asked me if I knew the festive tune for verse of Cymbals.
Yes.
And it was like something I like almost like never heard before.
Yes.
Like.
If you may have heard it, if you attend Christmas liturgies or Easter liturgies, like during raising of incense, then you'll hear this tune very often. Like Kyrie eleison ten osh emefiod nemepshi. I didn't get into this tune yet. Like right now we're still on like the annual. But yes, this is like one of like the exceptions to like.
And festive is the same thing as joyful, right? Like you
yes. No, it's a very valid question. Yes, festive is the same as joyful.
Okay, cool.
Right? It's always this, like the festive verses of Cymbals. It's always the same. It's always the same tune, but it's gonna be different words.
Always the same tune? You mean like whether Watos or Adam?
Yeah.
Okay.
The festive verses of Cymbals only has one tune.
Okay.
Okay. And also, and even the 29th of the month has exceptions to it. So the 29th of the month we celebrate or we commemorate the Annunciation, Nativity, and Resurrection. So we say the verses of Cymbals of each one of these feasts together. And the doxologies, you're going to say the doxology of Annunciation, of Nativity, and of Resurrection. And the proxies responses, for example, you're going to say the same thing. You're going to say the one for each one. And then the gospel response is like a combo of all 3. The concluding hymn, Amin Alleluia, is a combo of all 3. But even that has an exception. There's 2 months in the year where we don't celebrate or we don't commemorate these 3 feasts, and it's the 2 months following Kiyah, Tuban Mshir. If you guys have a bit of time, I could give you a quick crash, like very small like explanation of like the whole 29th of the month thing. So the reason why the church decided that on the 29th of the month we commemorate these 3 feasts is because Christmas is on a set date, the 29th of Kiyah, right? Systematically, like no matter what year you're in, is the 29th of Kiyah. The Feast of Annunciation, right? When would the Feast of Annunciation be, logically speaking?
9 months before.
9 months before, right? Exactly. So you have January 7th is Christmas, April 7th is Feast of Annunciation. So the 29th of Baramhat, right? So Christmas and Annunciation, they're on set dates, they're always on the 29th. Resurrection is shifting. Resurrection shifts from year to year, so it's not always on the 29th. But the reason why it's included in this commemoration is because in the year of Christ, it was the resurrection was on the 29th of Baramhat. This is why if you go into the Synaxarium of the 29th of Baramhat, it's going to talk about the Annunciation, but it's also going to talk about resurrection. And actually, if you go on the Synaxarium of the 27th, it's going to talk about the crucifixion. If you go on the one for the 26th, I believe it's going to, I'm not sure if it's going to talk about Good Thursday or not, but I believe it basically like it puts it into like this is in the year of Christ. It was on the 29th of Baramhat, the resurrection. This is why we include all 3 together, and then we celebrate them or we commemorate them every month. The reason why Tuba and Mshir are out of the picture, because Tuba and Mshir are the only 2 months that are outside of the Holy Conception. So if you think about it, 29th of Baramhat, like the Annunciation came, so this one she conceived, right? And then go all the way to the 29th of Kiyah when he was born. That leaves out the 2 months in between between like the Nativity and the Annunciation. So those 2 months, Tuba and Mshir, we don't commemorate on the 29th.
So, okay, this might sound dumb, but like 12 months in a year, 9 out of 12, and there's 3 left.
Well, that's the thing, but she was announced on the 29th of Baramhat,
Okay.
right?
Oh, okay.
So let's say, let's use our dates. So she was announced on the 7th of April, right? And then she gave birth on the 7th of January. So that leaves the 7th of February and the 7th of March.
Okay.
Because then she was announced on like the 3rd month.
Okay, got it.
So basically from January 7th to February 7th, from February to March, and then from March to April. Those are the 3 months that you're talking about. But the end of the 3rd month, that marks the Feast of Annunciation. Was that clear?
Yeah.
I don't know, oftentimes I feel when I explain these things, I'm like, man, if I was listening to myself right now, I just wouldn't be understanding anything I'm saying.
So can you say the names of the month again in Coptic? Like Christmas is...
So Christmas is on Kiyah,
okay.
so the 29th of Kiyah.
Yeah. And then...
Annunciation is the 29th of Baramhat.
Oh, that's not resurrection?
Well, resurrection, but in the year of Christ.
Oh, okay.
Because the resurrection changes from year to year. So like, for example, in 2021, it's not going to be on the 29th. It's going to be on whatever day that falls on.
Okay. Should see my spelling of Baramhat.
Well, I think, because the thing is that if you look in Coptic Reader, I think they have like they took it directly from like the Coptic. So it's like, I think it's like Paramhotep or something. But like when I'm saying the name like this, I'm saying it from like the Arabic. That's what I'm more familiar with.
Okay. Cool.
Whichever way you do it, it's not a big deal.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Any other questions?
next time دايما بتلخبط في لما بيبقى في لمبة بولس موجود وقت تقديم الشورية واروح لمين بقى وهو هيعمل ايه والبريست هيعمل ايه يعني بالنسبة لي بتبقى شوية ببقى بانيكينج يعني مش عارف اتحرك.
So by default you always offer the censer and the incense to the bishop.
Okay.
By default it's always the bishop.
Even if he's not near the altar. Yeah.
Even. It always goes to the bishop first, and then the bishop can decide one of two things. It's either he's going to put it himself, or he's going to do the sign of the cross and give the absolution or the permission to the priest to put it in. But it always has to pass by him. So in بالنسبة it's very simple. You go straight to the bishop. Wherever he is, you take it, because even the priest who's standing, he won't put it in himself. Even if Sayyidina is standing like wherever, he's going to wait and he's going to look at him and he's going to ask for permission or whatever it is. You're either standing at the altar and you're waiting for the bishop to come close, or you're going to go directly to the bishop. That could be like the priest's call who tells you to stand Sayyidina, or he's going to tell you go see Sayyidina and have him put it in. But it always passes through the bishop.
And if Sayyidina puts it in, do we need to go to Abuna after or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
I usually بعد سيدنا اروح لابونا تاني كنت بعمل كده.
Never.
Why is that like that? Okay.
No, it's just
Oh, okay.
it's like khalas, like the priest has put it in. So
Got it. But what if there's like more than one priest but same rank? Like they're all priests. Like
then whoever
Oh,
the priest who's at the altar,
okay.
then that's fine. And the same thing if you have several bishops, then it's going to be whichever bishop is at the altar, or the one who's like actually offering the incense at the time. It's only in the case where you have like a, and by the way, like if it's a group of bishops and the Pope is there, it's the same applies. They offer the censer to the Pope, and then like after that the bishop, or like they put it on the altar. Although the relation between Pope and bishops, it's not exactly the same as between bishop and priest. I just want to make that distinction. Especially in the Coptic Orthodox Church, the Pope is a first among equals. First among equals. He's not superior. Like the bishop, with respect to the priest, is a father, is a higher rank. The Pope, from the bishop, he's a first among equals. But for example, like from the moment the Pope and the Synod, they enthrone a bishop on a diocese, the Pope no longer has authority over the diocese. You understand? Taban, there's a respect. There's a respect of the authority. So Amabulis, he still submits to like the Pope, but in terms of the affairs of the diocese, the Pope can't come and rule and make rulings over the diocese. There's decisions that the Synod takes together, and then it trickles down to the bishops in their diocese. But other than that, the affairs of the diocese, it's just the bishop.
But he has the authority to move him from this diocese. No?
It's not, like, maybe in very, very extreme cases, but I don't even believe it's a decision he can take on his own, because the church's view on the bishop over the diocese is that it's a marriage. The bishop has married the diocese, so there can't be, you can't dethrone, like it's, if you're going to talk about the extreme case of like heresies and stuff like, yani ba'd al-shara, bishop goes off track, he becomes a heretic, then that's a whole other issue. But again, that's not a decision a pope takes on his own. It's like a synod that gets together and then they decide to excommunicate him or not. But other than that, then the bishop is married to the diocese, so it's final. There was even church canons that said that, for elections of a pope, you can't take a diocesan bishop because you can't take him away from his diocese. But there's legislations around this, and there's discussions to like change these rules or not. But the general idea is that the bishop is married to the diocese, and he has full authority over that area. Any other questions or comments or situations you guys have encountered or no?
Actually, sorry,
Yeah.
quick question, because we had a mass recently, and sometimes like Abuna will like skip some stuff. So just to like make it clear, so we start. He opens the sit.
Mm.
He steps out.
Yeah.
He prays with the cross. You're supposed
Prayer
to be
Thanksgiving.
yeah,
Yeah.
You're supposed to be standing behind him with a cross,
Yeah.
and then we're supposed to kind of get in quickly to give him the shoria,
Yes.
and then do the
Yes.
turns with him.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, what happens? That's where like I got lost. Like
Then after that, he's going to start praying the litanies.
okay,
Right? When he's praying the litanies, you should again be behind him with the cross, because he prays at least the litany of the sick and the travelers, he prays it outside the altar. It's only the litany of the oblations that he prays inside. So the litany of the oblations you answer from inside, because after he goes in, you go in, like after him.
mm-hmm.
But prayer of sick, travelers, or even departed, on evenings and on Saturday morning, then you pray the litany outside.
Okay.
But you first have to make sure he has the censer, because he takes this, like he prays the litanies with the censer.
Okay.
You understand? So when he starts to pray the litany, then after you've given him the censer, you take the cross and you go outside behind him. And then you either answer or not answer depending on situation, shortage of time or whatever. Then sometimes we skip the response. But obviously you should be ready to respond.
Okay.
And actually those responses, and this I have to do myself, but it's better to have them memorized, so it's on hand. It's like you're gonna, when you guys serve a lot, you're gonna find it starts to get awkward and uncomfortable to always have to depend on a phone, and then your phone doesn't load, or your phone dies, or your phone is set on another date or whatever. It's annoying, to always have to depend. But if it's on hand, then you're much more alert, and then we say it, we don't say it, then we don't, then you're more in the moment. Anything else? By the way, I love that you guys bring up situations that I was in a liturgy and stuff, because this is the best way to learn. And usually in these situations when you've been burned once, well then you make sure that you're ready for that. At least it's beneficial. I learn a lot from the mistakes I made, or this happened and I had no idea what's going on. Let me make sure that doesn't happen again. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but the only time that I can remember going outside with a cross, standing behind Abuna, is before
The litany of the gospel. Yes.
So what other situation is it for me to be behind Abuna, standing with the cross?
Any litany that Abuna is praying outside the altar, holding a censer, you should be standing behind him with a cross.
What do we usually do?
It's because in SPSP, usually when we're praying in the main altar, it's so wide, and the
Maybe we
space in
should
front
show
of the door is
it
so
with
small,
the
because the
altar right
deacons
now.
are there.
Yeah.
So if you're standing behind the Buna of the cross, you're often on the
After the
stairs or something. No, but even before that, or no, after that, sorry, when he starts praying the liturgies, the litanies, then he's saying we're supposed to be outside with the cross.
So I know there's a lot of things that are done inside, and I actually until very recently it was done the same way here. The deacon was just standing inside and he was just answering whatever. And actually and actually some deacons still do this, but they do all of the turns the shorter, they will do it all with both of them, which is not correct.
Okay.
Right? So during raising of incense, and during even the Pauline epistle and the turn of the praxis, you should only be turning with the cross. We don't turn with the gospel.
Yeah.
So the gospel and the cross, they only go together at the litany of the gospel. But if Abuna is praying, so he's praying the litany. Well, now we're already standing outside the altar, but basically he's standing here and he's praying whichever litany that he's praying. Sick, travelers, departed. But then, so if he's standing here, well then you should be standing behind him, holding the cross. Exactly like this, and you're just answering the litany.
Okay. And then that's when you go after inside to get a...
Yes. But
Okay.
you're talking about like for example prayer of thanksgiving. After you're done, then you're gonna go in and then you're gonna go get the censer.
Litany of the departed.
Did I lose it?
Maybe we should just start from the beginning and do it in order as if we were actually doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe to just
So Abuna opens the curtain, right? He says Alayhi Mas, and then he stands here, and then he prays the prayer of thanksgiving. When he's praying the prayer of thanksgiving, you're standing behind him with the cross.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So your Epi prosevkista cite, prosevixosti, and pray that God may have mercy and compassion upon us, you should be answering it from here, from outside, holding a cross.
Okay. Wow.
Meshi?
Okay. We're usually inside. Okay, so...
Yes.
Completely going.
But that's what I'm telling you, and a lot of churches have that mistaken.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you go, for example, just a general note, a good reference for proper rituals are monasteries. When you go to a monastery, pay very close attention how they do it. They're usually much more by the book.
Okay.
You understand?
And this is only for Matins, not Vespers.
Vespers as well.
Vespers as well?
Yes.
Okay.
The prayer of thanksgiving and the litanies, it's always you're standing behind the Buna of the cross. So he says, therefore we ask in your your goodness, to love mankind, grant us complete this whole day and all days of our life, and all peace in your fear, all envy, all temptation, all the work of Satan, cancel, wicked men, and the rising of enemies, hidden manifest, take them away from us, and from your people, from this church, from this place that is yours, but those things which are good and profitable do provide for us, For it is you who have given us the authority to trample on serpents and scorpions, then you should be already starting to move in to get the censer, because as soon as he's done, he's coming to the altar and he's waiting for the censer. Right? Is that clear?
Yeah, I've never done it to be behind Abuna at the beginning.
And like I said, and I really want to stress this point, I'm telling you here the theory, right? How it applies or doesn't apply in your church, or if it's not something that you guys are doing, or it's like some are doing, some are not doing it, or like it's just a general and saying, no, like, no, we're not going to do it this way, then it's not for you to go against the grain. Like just, but know what is correct. Like that if you were to pray anywhere else, if no one says anything, then do what is correct. You understand?
Yeah.
Any other questions or
The
comments?
beginning of the departed.
Yeah.
أبونا في النص بيروح يحط
Yes.
is it am I supposed to يعني go and bring him الانسنت outside even if I am behind him?
That's a good question. Because to be honest, I've seen it done both ways. I've seen it either Abuna will go in himself and put it in,
Okay.
or the deacon will actually go in, bring him the incense, and then
Return and
and
then
then
come back.
yeah, and then go back out. To be honest, I believe the more correct thing would be to go and bring it to him, because for the whole time that he's praying the litany, he should be standing outside.
Okay.
This is when he says, since they were clothed in the flesh and dwelt in this world, O God, the lover of mankind, have mercy on her and forgive them, I think. There's a part in the litany of the departed.
orthodoxيين حاجة عبيدة في الأرثوذكسيين.
Keep going. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so repose your souls. Yeah, exactly. O God, as the good one and lover of mankind, graciously accord, O Lord, to repose them and forgive them, your sons, the Orthodox Christians who are in the whole world. So basically at the beginning of this here, at O God, he usually puts incense. Right? So basically, if this is where he puts incense, you're not waiting for him to say, O God, right? So you know that even if any negligence or heedlessness has overtaken them as men, since they were clothed in the flesh and dwelt in this world, so at this part here, you would come inside to bring him the incense, right?
Yeah.
But also don't forget the etiquette. You always walk in from the right. So you're going to walk in from the right, you're going to bring him the incense, you're going to let it go, you're going to go around, you don't come out from the same side. You go around, you come out again from the left, and you stand behind him, yes.
What about like, for example, for like now during COVID, we have like a small chapel, like next to the big chapel in Archangel Michael, we have a small one, but it's really tight. But
Yeah.
for example, if Abuna is actually standing on the right, like, is it wrong to like go in from the left because there's literally like no space? تدخل منه, like I'm just asking practical wise, and like, you know.
Practically speaking, I think in the situation like this, it's not a big deal if Abuna just goes, puts it in himself.
Okay.
Like, it's more practical than having to be all awkward about it just to like get him the incense, you know, just let it go. He'll be okay. But to be honest, I need to check back and see what's the more correct thing. Is it correct for you to just stay outside and Abuna will come in, put it, and go back out? Or do you, like, should you go in and offer? But I believe the more correct thing is to come in and bring it to him. Because also if there's a bishop or brother, you're going to do the same thing. Like, Abuna shouldn't have to come in to the altar, you should still continue to pray the litany outside.
Sorry, you see he puts an incense where? During what? Part of the litany of the part?
Yeah. So it says here, so even if any negligence or heedlessness has overtaken them as men, so if I like simulate, so when I'm standing here, so he's saying even if any negligence or heedlessness has overtaken them as men, since they were clothed in flesh and dwelt in this world. And then the next slide says, so he said, O God, as the good and lover of mankind, graciously accord, O Lord, your servants, the Orthodox Christians, who are in the whole world, to repose them and forgive them. Your servants, the Orthodox Christians, who are in the whole world, from the east to the west, and from the north to the south. You actually see him do this action with the censer.
Oh, okay.
You understand?
East is this way.
Yes.
Got it.
So east to west, and then this would be north,
I
from
actually
the
had that
north
question for so long.
to the south.
So
I never
cool.
understood why he did north, south this way. I was so confused, but it just makes sense now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, actually, and to be honest, whatever church, like for example in St. Mark's, they have a northern altar. Their altar is actually facing north because of the way the building is. But like in whatever church you're praying, where the altar is the east by default. So this is why he says like from the east to the west and from the north to the south. Some priests they do it a bit more subtle, so you don't really like see it or it's not very noticeable. But other priests they really make it like east to the west and from the north to the south. You know, which you understand why. But this is so the part right before, like when he says graciously accord the Lord to repose and forgive him. This is when he puts it in. But like I said, you're one step ahead of the game. That's why the paragraph before that says, even if any negligence or heedlessness has overtaken them as men, you're already getting ready to go in and get in this the incense. Loving the questions. Anything else? Questions or comments, situations, interrogations, anyone get beaten up by a priest or a bishop or reproached? Those are less fun. Although like in all seriousness, I like to remember a verse. It's in one of the Psalms. It says, "Let the righteous strike me, it shall be a kindness, and let him rebuke me, it shall be as excellent oil. Let not my head refuse it." So don't be one of the ones who refuses rebuke, but be one of the ones who embraces it and actually sees it as a kindness. If anything, for the sake of the humbling experience. Question? That's it? Let's pray. Then I would Father and Son and Holy Spirit, God, Amen. Our Lord and restore thee to good. Thank you, our Father, who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us. And thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.